Welcome to The Missing. Tonight we're continuing our discussion on Suzanne Morphew. Now last week, not last week, actually just a couple of days ago, I had been thinking all day about why Barry, her husband, had not made a public statement. And it really just got under my skin, and I probably got a little irritated, and I got some hate mail from it, but I can deal with that, and some hate posts. And I want you to know, for all you haters out there, I actually delete every post that I get right away if it's anything that's ugly or demeaning towards me. It's just not worth the drama. I don't think that people sometimes can be pretty cruel. Um, I'm trying to get over to my page now. My YouTube page, so I can show you a couple things, or tell you about a couple things. Okay. I am looking for some moderators, somebody that can monitor our live streams, and that can weed out some of the people that are not here for the right reasons. Currently, we are a growing channel. We would really appreciate if you would subscribe to our channel. And in the future, I'm going to post these live streams ahead of time. Actually, today I just wanted to catch you up on some things that what I believe is going to happen. I am not currently a law enforcement officer. I am retired law enforcement. As I said before, I have over 33 years in law enforcement, and I've worked in departments as small as 20 people to as big as 300 officers. One thing, the reason the title of this particular live stream is our charges and arrests are coming. And this is just my opinion. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that in what I've read and what all the case that's out there in the media, we're all praying that Suzanne will be found alive. But the longer she goes missing and stays missing, the odds of that happening are getting lower. A couple things I want to say is Colorado Bureau of Investigation and the FBI. Sorry if you hear my dogs barking in the other room. They're not small police facilities. They have the top of the line investigators, top of the line criminal forensics, top of the line lawyers within their organization. So don't think just because this happened in a small city in Colorado, the sheriff's department, I'm sure the sheriff's department is very adequate to handle most stuff in that county, but I think disappearances, I can't hardly talk today for some reason, disappearance or missing person like this case, it can be challenging for a small department. It really can, and I can tell you from experience on that. They're not used to handling cases where they have someone disappear for a couple of months under this kind of circumstances. And let me go back to one thing. It's kind of confusing to me, and I've listened to a lot of other YouTube channels that I subscribe to, and that have been very thorough, but nobody knows this. Nobody can tell us exactly when she went missing. It's been determined, they believe that she went on a bike ride that morning. And that's only because when start off with, Barry her husband had went to Denver for, it started out, I think, he said a fire academy or fire training, but it turned out that was not completely true, what I've read. And then it was for a job. And then the two children had gone on some type of camping trip in Utah and were supposed to come back on Mother's Day. So when they couldn't get a hold of her mother by texting, then they called the neighbor. And I'm not too sure if they called the father first, Barry, texted him or called him and said, "Hey, where's mom?" Or they knew her father were in Denver. So whenever that was, they called the neighbor. The neighbor went and checked, and they said the car's here, but the bike's gone. So I think some assumption is that that is when they believe that she went out for a bike ride. Now, Barry, when he talked to Tyson Draper, he said that he made the assumption, well, the animal might have attacked her and drug her off. I don't take that at all, because if an animal attacks something, whether an animal attacks, say, something large like a cow or another deer, there's going to be a blood trail. There's not always going to be, it could be her clothing could be tore off. And I just don't believe an animal would take it out 4 or 5 miles off in any direction. And it's something, the two things that he said in the interview with Tyson Draper is he said that they checked a 200-mile radius. I didn't know the sheriff department did a 200-mile radius. That's a big area. That's probably the size of Denver itself. And I don't know how they could ever check a 200-mile radius. And the other one thing he said he made reference to is Army Ranger friend that did over 400 tours in Afghanistan. I don't know if that's even possible either. So, I don't know. Maybe he's just exaggerating, but it tends to say that he's just not telling the truth there. I don't know if he meant to say that or what. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But so I put the animal theory out. I don't think it was an animal. And I have really a question if she even went on a bike ride to begin with. That could be a method of she was maybe killed somewhere else, and they took the bike out there to kind of throw everybody off the trail. The one thing I'll say this: the FBI is I don't care what you've heard on the news about the current political situation with the top echelon of the FBI. Let's just forget about that with their agents. I've worked with some of the best, most professional, talented FBI agents in the business. They will be thorough. They will leave no stone unturned. None. And if the FBI is involved and they are looking into the case and working with those deputies, you can be assured somebody is going to jail if there's criminal activity found. I've never seen a case that the FBI just said, well, we're just going to forget this or whatever. Once they're involved, and they have been, and also the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, these guys are top notch. They're the top law enforcement agency in the state. So you can be sure that these guys know what they're doing, apart from the sheriff's department. I'm not saying the sheriff's department doesn't know what it's doing. I'm sure they're very well capable of handling some cases, but when you get these other two involved, you can be assured that a complete, thorough investigation is going to happen. Now, let's go back to the 2 search warrants they did at the home. The first search warrant, of course, was done right after the missing person. They want to check and see if they can immediately find any evidence that she was killed in the home or taken, abducted in the home, because I'm sure they don't know if she went on a bike ride or not. That is just speculation, what I have seen. I haven't seen any evidence or read any evidence that would tell me that it's 100% true that she went on a bike ride. There is something that came out also that supposedly Barry had some people working around the house. He was talking to one of them and mentioned there was a missing gun from his gun collection, and he told one of the workers, supposedly, and this is just rumor, I'm just throwing rumors out, that he had an airtight alibi. I mean, I don't understand why we even tell anybody that I got an airtight alibi. The one thing is with this, they had a second search warrant done at the home. Now let me tell you, I have done, because I work about 15 years in narcotics. I can tell you I have done, welcome, me and Mac, thank you for stopping by. Um, Let me see, direction of a bike tire being pointed and then the chains of sailing midstream. Yeah, I agree, it's kind of done. But here's what I'm saying. I have been involved in probably over a couple of hundred search warrants in my career, maybe more than that. For a while there, we were doing 2 search warrants a week, maybe 3, depends, if you get the right information. It takes a lot you have got to establish probable cause to get a search warrant. You've either got to have information from a reliable source, you've either got to have direct evidence, or you got to prove to a judge that it would be beneficial to the case in proving a point that something illegal was done, not just speculation. Oh, judge, we forgot to look at this, or we forgot to look at that. It's almost impossible to get a second search warrant in a house you've already searched. It's almost impossible. You have got to have some type of current information, or maybe from the first time you did the search warrant, you turned evidence to the lab, and then say you turned in something to the lab, and then lab took 10 or 15 days to get that evidence back, and when they did, they said, you got DNA here, or you got all this stuff turned out to be blood on it, or something led them to obtain the second search warrant. So I'm telling you, it's not an easy task to do. So they go and they get the second search warrant. Now, the FBI is involved and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is involved, apart from the Sheriff's Office. I'm sure the Sheriff's Office is still the case agents, and they're doing what they can, but FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, they are top notch. I'm telling you, don't think these people are not going to do their absolute very best. I really believe that there'll be somebody charged in this. I really believe what I've seen, and I have no evidence to back that up, but just from what I've read, from all the evidence, that of what people are saying, witnesses are saying, is that she may have been hurt or harmed, or whatever happened, I believe happened the night before Mother's Day. I don't think she ever took a bike ride. Not from what I don't see any evidence if it did. If there's somebody mentioned there may have been a video from a neighbor's house. I don't know if they did or not. Do we know if Barry took a lie detector? I don't know. I would hope that they ask him to. They're not conclusive. I have been polygraphed about 5 times. I did it to get hired in police work. I was polygraphed. 2 different departments polygraphed me. In polygraphs, the way they do it, they read you, they talk to you for about 2 hours, and then find out a lot of stuff during the initial talk, and then they hand you the questions they're going to ask, and they leave you in a room for about 10 minutes to go over those questions. The reason why is they want you to look at those questions, and if there's something on there that they think you're going to lie about, they know that the body's going to respond to that question. Now, can lie detectors be wrong? Absolutely, they can be wrong. And it's 9 times out of 10 is how that guy reads that polygraph. It's a polygraph examiner. But going back to the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, I'm sure they have somebody that's very, very good at giving polygraphs, and they know how to read that polygraph. A polygraph, when they give you it, they put these things on your hands, and it measures the sweat in your palms. They put this belt around your chest. It measures the heart rate and the breathing. So when you lie, that your body gives an involuntary motions of your body. But let me tell you, there's been studies that tell you if somebody takes medication before that polygraph, they can actually beat the polygraph. So I'm not saying a polygraph's 100%, but that would be my first thing to do. Just because somebody takes a polygraph and passes it, it doesn't rule them out to me. because they can beat the polygraph. And if they're a sociopath, they can beat it because they don't have any conscience. They don't feel like that there's anything they can do that's wrong. So if they kill somebody, they don't think it's wrong. So they can take a polygraph and pass it because they're a sociopath. But and that's been proven. But I would have loved to see if he would take a polygraph. Just the indication, would you take a polygraph? And if he says, no, I don't think I want to take it, it doesn't mean he's guilty. It may just mean he's scared of what that polygraph is going to make him nervous, and he might do it. My problem is this: if they can't 100% tie down that she took the bike ride, then the window goes out. The alibi of Barry goes away, because that night before that, something could have happened. And just think about this. Say they got into an argument. The kids were gone. There's nobody in the house. They got into an argument, and for whatever reason, there was some type of physical violence, of pushing, shoving, and somebody fell and hit their head, even by accident, and they died. I'm not saying this is the thing. I'm just throwing this out there. Then it very well could have been. There's a lot of time to conceal a body. I just don't see any evidence of a bike ride gone bad. I don't see it. I mean, just think this. You could take a bike and throw it down the hill and damage the bike, but where's the evidence, 11 days, house sealed off. FBI and CBI were recreating a crime scene. That could be. That's very well sure. Janet, I hope you don't mind me calling by your first name, because sometimes last names to me, especially Rich, I might butcher your last name. They very well could be. The second search warrant is the one that I'm more interested in the first. The second means they had some type of evidence of some sort to get back in the house. Because like I said, I've been involved with probably over 100 search warrants, I'm sure, maybe 300 or 400. Mostly drug search warrants. I've been on a couple of homicide search warrants. And it takes almost an act of Congress to do a second search warrant. You've got to have some serious evidence to convince a judge why you need back in the house. What you can't just say, well, we missed something, because that's not going to do it. The judge is not going to do it. We've had search warrants where we had an informant see a bag of marijuana in a house, and the judge says, well, how do you know it was marijuana? Well, the informant uses marijuana or smokes marijuana, and I'm not talking a little bag of marijuana, I'm talking about a large bag of marijuana. And the judge was not convinced that was marijuana unless he had smoked it, bought some, had drug evidence. It's just a lot to go in a search warrant. You just can't go up there and put, we need to search this house because this person's missing. You've got to have a little bit. Now, the first search warrant, the first time they were there, they could go to it and say, okay, we got a missing person. There's evidence that something went wrong, or we feel like it's not just somebody got attacked by an animal or whatever, and we need to investigate this. And it may be easier to get in there for the first time. But we don't know how far they went during the first thing. And was the FBI and CBI both involved in the first search warrant? I haven't heard that. But so we know there were reports that supposedly she was seen at a Vietnamese restaurant. Well, I understand now that has been debunked, that the woman recanted saying, no, that was not the same Susan. So my thing is, I don't find any evidence. What I've seen is that she was seen. I don't know when the last time she was seen. I think she had, somebody said she was seen at a bike shop on the 7th. Getting her bike repaired. But I think she did talk to her good friend or something, maybe on the phone before then. But I just don't, there's not enough timeline. And police are being very closed about this situation. And listen, as a law enforcement officer, retired law enforcement officer, I can tell you that's standard. That's standard because one is, if they have a suspect, they don't want to play their cards early. They don't want to release information that only the killer knew, if there is a killer. I'm not saying she's dead, but the longer she's missing with no evidence she was abducted, no ransom demand, no nothing to say that she's still alive. It gets more grim. I'll just tell you. And there's no evidence that she left on her own. Her girls, it's apparent from her friends, some of her friends saying that her girls were her world. One thing I want to say, and I want y'all to do this for me, go back and look at every picture of Barry and Suzanne in the past. Just something I've noticed, and it may not mean anything. It's just something that's kind of got to me a little bit. Go back and look at every picture online. Cadaver dogs get a scent if she was murdered in the house. I don't think so, because a cadaver dog picks up scent of a decaying body. They don't necessarily pick up scent of a dead body right away. It's the scent of the body as it decomposes, the way I understand it. So that's why they can even pick it up through water, though. They can take a boat across the water with a cadaver dog on the front of it, and he can pick up air bubbles coming up through the water of the decomposing body. I think that is pretty much set. I don't think a dog can pick up one that's likely just been murdered. If the body had been left in the house overnight, yeah, probably so. When rigor had set in, and then after rigor had been in the latter stages of rigor, it might have. But let me say this. Every picture, I want you to go back and look at every picture of Barry and Suzanne in the past, on their vacations and everything. He's never holding her. He's standing right next to her. She's got her arms on him, but he doesn't have it on her. Now, it may just be something that doesn't make any sense to anything, and it may not have anything to do with anything. But it does say something of his attitude. It kind of looks like, I don't know, it just gives me a questionable sense about this guy. And I did kind of go off on my last video on him, and I still feel that way. There's no reason why he shouldn't be out there on the news every day. I'd want this in the news every single day. I'd want everybody to be talking about it. And one other thing too, I want to know who put up that big sign at McDonald's. I want to know if that was a family or was that him. Sure, they've offered $200,000 reward, but hey, you can offer $50 million reward. I mean, he can go on there and say, we'll give $50 million if anybody can bring her home safely, because if he's involved in something, he knows nobody's going to do that. And I'm not saying he is. I'm not accusing him. I'm just saying a lot of things are making him look very guilty to me. And when I was in law enforcement, I was working a case, you got to look at the total circumstances, the totality of circumstances, evidence, circumstances, how the victim's husband and people are acting in the family, whether they have came in. Has the police actually set him down for an interview? I don't know that that's even true. If he's done a full-fledged interview, did he have a lawyer at that time? Now listen, just because he hires a lawyer, it doesn't mean anything. Because I'm going to tell you, if somebody reads me my rights and tells me I have the right to remain silent and I might need a lawyer, I'm going to tell them I want a lawyer. Not because I'm guilty. It's just because there's something to make the police think I might have did something, so I'm going to want counsel there to tell me what my rights are. Even though I had 30-something years in law enforcement, even though I've been to 2 years of law school, I did not finish. Thought I wanted to do that, but I just miss law enforcement so bad. It gets in your blood, and I think that's one reason why I'm doing this channel, is because I miss it. I miss the being in the heart of an investigation. Now, I can't see what these police officers are doing. So I look at it from your standpoint. The greatest benefit to this channel and all these other channels like this is that people solve crimes. Somebody might know something about something, and they don't feel good about calling the police. Well, hey, tell us about it. Tell me to call you. I'll call you. See if we can find some information out that's going to help her solve this case. There's been documented cases where people have went and investigated stuff on their own and discovered something and got it back to the police and actually solved crimes sitting at home on the computer, because there's people I know. Listen, I'm not a computer expert, and there's a lot of stuff about this live stream that I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I use Ecamm, which is a brand new software, and just like this, I'm gonna put this up here. This is one of the posters that tells about it and that shows her picture. But getting back, if I was Barry, that I'd be at the news channel every night saying, "Hey, let's talk about Suzanne. Let's get some people out there," because there's been several people that have talked to citizens and community and they didn't know anything about it. And this is just a little small community. So, I encourage him again, get out there and talk to the media, and let's get this out in the press more. That's one reason why that I'm going to look into cases in the future past this. Now, I'm going to keep up with this case, and if something breaks on it, where I'm going to be here online to do it. But I'm also going to examine cases in other states and other cases. We're going to look at a case coming up on a Jennifer. Spelling the last name is Kesse. Now, this is one that you can look up yourself ahead of time. I think it's a 13 or 14-year-old case, but it is a very interesting case. And I guarantee you, and I always say this, somebody knows something. And in this case right here, somebody knows something. Maybe they heard Barry say something off cuff, or maybe they heard Barry's friends say something off cuff. And let's not just concentrate on Barry. Let's concentrate on getting Susan back, and Suzanne back. And I'm praying that she's alive. The longer it goes on, I don't see it happening. That she'll be found alive. And I hate to say that, but somebody's missing 2 months. They don't have any money with them. They don't have any identification that anybody said with them, unless she had some money in her pockets if she went for the bike ride, which I don't think that ever happened. I think that I'm hearing reports too of a woman and coming out, and I was trying to see, let me see if I can pull this up for you, and I'm sure every one of you had looked at it. This girl, this older lady, let's see here. I don't know if you can, I don't know if you're seeing this or not. Some of my cases I'm going through here. Let's see in the future here. Oops, here it is. Okay, this Mary Branson lives near the site where the FBI and CBI and Sheriff's Department did a search. She lives near a building site where Barry was doing some work, and where I don't know exactly what type of work he was doing, but he was using equipment over there because they had been working in the past over there at the house. And I'm going to see if I can pull up the house here uh, where it was. And I'm sure that there's nothing more that you haven't seen in the past. So yeah. Now this house, oh no problem. And me and Mac, I don't know, I don't know your first name, but yes, I looked at today and I spent about 6 hours reviewing that case, and that is a very interesting case. And I'm going to tell you this right up front. I'd hate to apologize to y'all about branching out on this other thing, but this next case we're going to look at, law enforcement failed that family. They failed them. And as a retired police officer, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed. But anyway, y'all tune in for that because that's going to be a very interesting case. Now, this house here is being built. I'm not sure who's building it, or if Barry was building it, or just doing landscaping over there, or whatever. But apparently, they had some information, and this woman heard machinery running outside at late at night, either the night before Mother's Day or on Mother's Day night. She's not 100% sure, but it was enough. The machinery was loud enough that it woke her up, and she finally got out of bed, opened the door to see if she could tell what it was, and then the noise quit. All right. This site had concrete up, and I know from the pictures and what I've seen is they apparently broke the concrete and then went up underneath the slab. Now, to do that, they probably used some type of radar, ground penetrating radar, to look under it, and they might have saw something they didn't like, and they went under there to look at it. But they also, I saw them working with screens out there to see if they can find out anything. Now, just because an arrest wasn't announced or a charge wasn't announced doesn't mean the FBI and CBI has not found anything. That doesn't mean that. 9 times out of 10, what they will do is, if, let's just say worst case scenario, let's just say they know that she is no longer with us, that she is dead. Let's just say that they haven't found the body yet. Let's just say they have evidence that something happened in the house, and that maybe there was some indication that something might have been buried near this site where he was working. For whatever reason, something was happening over there in the middle of the night. We don't know what yet, but and I guarantee you later on it will come out. Let's just say that they know who it is, whether it's Barry, Barry's friend, Barry hired somebody, transient, workers that maybe did it, just, I don't know, whatever. They still may know and have a good case against somebody, but they're waiting for forensic evidence to come back from the lab, because you got to understand this. Let's just hypothetically say it was Barry. There's probably no chance that he will ever kill anybody around this case again. I'm not saying he won't, if he got away with it, he wouldn't kill somebody else, but there's just no chance that he's a danger to the public right now. So not much danger, I would say that. They may be waiting on some forensic evidence to come back from the lab before they take this to a grand jury and charge whoever, whether it's Barry, whether it's somebody that's happened on the situation. I do think that maybe some eyes are on Barry, because why check this site where Barry was working if there's not, if I was Barry and I wasn't doing anything, even if say I wasn't Barry and didn't have anything to do with this, then, and if they checked the building site that I was working on, then yeah, I would, I'd be like, what are you doing, man? Why are you wasting time on that? I'm not the guy to do this, but see, he's not saying anything. He's just not saying anything. Which, I don't understand that aspect of it. And it's just like I said in my rant, that if it had been me, and I think it'd been any of y'all'd be on the street, news, everything, every single night, wanting to, I'd do press conferences. I'd be all over the nightly news. I'd be on CBS and morning shows, and I would just be jumping up and down, help find my wife. Instead, no, he's silent. 25 seconds, I'm not going into that. I'm getting upset again. Just because it's just so aggravating that he's not out there more. But he may be just his nature. It may be that he does not want to have the press ask him questions and not have answers for it. But it doesn't make any sense to me anyway. And his lawyer may be telling him that. Now, one other thing. I've been hearing a lot of talk about the girls, the daughters obtain their own loggers. I'm not, that don't draw a red flag to me. What would bring a red flag to me if they're not living with their dad? If they are truly not living with their dad because they don't want to, then that would be a big red flag to me. Because maybe they know what really happened in the home. Maybe they saw fighting all the time. Maybe they saw abuse, whether it's verbal abuse or it's physical abuse. Maybe they saw that and they think he did it. I don't know, because we haven't heard from the kids, and I wouldn't expect really to hear from at least the minor child, maybe the adult child or somebody else. But I'm pretty sure that law enforcement has came out to them and said, don't talk to anybody, don't talk to the news media, don't talk to anybody, because they don't want the case to be muddied up. And but just because you haven't heard from them doesn't mean that there's any more relevant to that. But I would like to know if they're living with their father. That's what I would like to know. If not, then that to me is kind of a red flag. It just says something's up with that. Because I'm telling you this, and I think either one of y'all that are here with me tonight would say, if something happened to your spouse, you would want your children with you. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want your children to be with you if something happened to your spouse that you didn't know why they're missing? And what gets me is this. People think that they can commit some type of perfect crime. And that's what I'm saying. There is no perfect crime. When you do something to somebody, especially murder, and I'm not saying Barry did it or whoever did, if she was murdered, there's evidence left, whether it's DNA, trace evidence, touch evidence, and sooner or later, I would think Suzanne will be found. Unless it was just some type of stranger abduction so let's just throw this out there. She gets on her bike, she's riding up the road, some guy comes up, hey, let's grab her. Grabs her, throws her bike down in the thing, takes her off, and for whatever reason kills her, puts her in sex trade, human trafficking, and all that stuff. I personally don't think that happened. And one reason is the searches around various places, the lakes and everything. Two is that he's not on the news every single night, because I think that if that was truly happening, he would be out there, at least I would. And the sheriff's department would be doing appealing to the public more. I believe they already know. I honestly do. I think they already have a case on whoever is going to be charged with this. It will surprise me if they don't. And what I know about law enforcement, that I believe they're waiting on lab work and what's going on. They're waiting to see if other evidence is going to come up. But I seriously think that all of this attention through YouTube has helped the situation kind of keep the heat on it, because after a while things kind of grow cold. But in this case I don't think so, because the FBI is involved in the actively investigating this. The next case that we're going to examine, Jennifer's case, the FBI looked it over, but they didn't get involved. What I can understand, what I've read and everything on it, I don't think they actually got involved in it, and that is because of the proximity to being a large police department and some things that happened during the case. Be sure to tune in for that. I think it's going to be a very good case to investigate. I'm going to try to get an interview with the family. That's not to say that I will be able to. I would like to offer them an opportunity to get on the air and to tell what they need to tell. I think that case is solvable. I think every case is solvable to a certain extent. Like I said, somebody knows something. Whether it's an ex-wife of somebody, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend that gets feeling guilty about it, somebody gets a deadly disease, cancer, whatever, and on their deathbed to clear their conscience, they say something. I believe it's solvable. Now, not all cases are solved. And it's like I read the other day, it's like 504,000 people a year come up missing in the United States. Now, if that figure is wrong, I apologize, because I'm just doing it off memory. It's amazing, though, how many people do. So do you think an arrest coming because of second search warrant? I do. I think that is one thing. I think the first search warrant, something might have came up in the lab work that got them to the second search warrant. And like I said before, and I don't know if you were on here then or not, and I know some of you were not, getting a second search warrant to a scene is almost impossible. It's almost impossible. You've got to have some type of direct evidence that you're going in to seize, and you've got to tell it. So now, let's just, for instance, hypothetical, they go into the house and they seize something with blood on it, and they get the DNA from the blood. Now, DNA is not like on TV where you submit the DNA and 30 minutes later they can tell you who it belongs to. I have seen DNA take 6 weeks, a month. Even if they've rushed the DNA, I would think 10 to 15 days probably would be a rush job. And then say they put the DNA in VICAP or it's CODIS. It's a database that basically runs all the DNA. When you're arrested, if you're arrested and you're taken into custody, they swab your mouth and get your DNA and they put it in CODIS. Now, it's just the part of being arrested. And then say they did find DNA and they checked it through CODIS and it comes back, it's unfounded. Don't know who it belongs to. All right, now, that's something to get back into the house and see if there's any more DNA from anybody else. That could be it. Or say they got something that was blood from Suzanne and the other blood mixed with it, say, was from Barry. And they want to get in the house and see if this is not just in one particular spot. So they would appeal to the judge or magistrate, whoever does the warrant, search warrant, that there's further evidence to be had by doing this search warrant because of this. It's difficult, people. It's really difficult to even get one search warrant. Let me just go through, say, on a drug warrant. I would have to send a undercover officer or a informant, CI we call them, confidential informant, would have to go into the house and have to see illegal activity. And then I would have to make a document, and the document would say, on this date, a confidential informant that has proven his reliability over so many periods of time, during this time, went into this location in the last so many hours, and he saw this illegal activity or this illegal drug. And we believe if we don't go in and seize that drug, that the evidence will be destroyed. So this is why we need to go in there. Now, the magistrate or judge is going to question, how is this person reliable, and give me some insight. So he's going to want this all written out into this search warrant. I'm not going to have to name him if he is a reliable informant, but I'm going to have to tell the judge why he's a reliable informant. And so there's a whole lot of stuff, and I know that just sounds kind of simple, but it's not. I've written search warrants. It would be 2 and 3 pages narratives, and the judge would actually take a red pen and strike out little things and say, you need to correct some of this stuff. I'm not giving you anything for that, or that's not enough, Tommy. I've had him tell me, that's not enough. And, and I got, it aggravates me to leave a house that I know illegal drugs are in, or being sold in, or being shot up, or somebody's got stolen property in there. It's just something it's hard to do, very hard to do. A few channels have said that, you said a few channels have said that she was sex trafficked. I don't think so. It's possible. We don't know in the end. I guess we will know. But first off, too, there's no reach of the law enforcement to establish this out in the community. Like, have law enforcement put up these billboards? You see them on the interstate. Have you seen this girl or whatever? I mean, listen. Sex trafficking is in the United States. Most of it is domestic sex trafficking, where girls have gotten into the life of prostitution through drugs. And I apologize for this table moving back and forth. We had a situation. I worked for and retired from, my last police department was a Gulf Coast police department. And on the Gulf Coast, they would have girls, Russian girls and German girls and Jamaican and everything, that would be working in these souvenir shops all over the place. And also, we heard that there was a lot of high-end sex trafficking. And the reason, we actually had 2 girls come in one day, and they were Russian girls, and they said that they were working in a place in Panama City, that 2 guys in her organization, that they got them over here from Russia, and they actually, I sometimes I ramble and get confused, but they actually post big ads in these Russian newspapers, and they show beautiful waters with this palm tree hanging over it. Come here and make a lot of money and send it back to your family. Well, they came over with this group of about 100 women and men too, and they put them in apartments where they actually have locks on the doors on the outside of the bedrooms. I saw this for myself. They put these locks. We went into this apartment. We heard the manager, actually, these people moved out. The manager of this apartment complex called us, and they sent us over. And when I was in narcotics, but we did a lot of everything in narcotics, human trafficking, and cybercrime, and just a whole lot of stuff. But we went over there, and all the bedrooms had bunk beds in it. Like a bedroom, a 10 by 10 bedroom would have 4 bunk beds, type 2 on each side. Looked like a jail cell. And the doors had padlocks on the outside of the door, where whoever that was running the house would padlock the doors. And so these 2 girls came in and said they were in Panama City working, and their people came in and they said, let's go. You're moving tonight. You got an hour to get your stuff ready. So they took them to the town that I worked in. Hello, welcome. And they basically They would work in souvenir shops, say for $10 an hour. They took $2 an hour from them for every hour they worked. So say I know uh, one particular group had 450 people from Russia, Jamaica, Lithuanian, and a whole bunch of other different countries. 450. So they're taking $2 an hour out of those people that work. So that's $900 an hour they were making, and I don't know if they pay taxes on it. It was just it's servitude type slave labor for getting them a job. They charged them to live in the houses that had locks on the outside of the door. So they'd have 15 people living in an apartment paying $400 to $500 a month to live there. So you see where the profit for them. Now, we understood that there was high-end prostitution being done with some of these Russian women because, listen, these Russian women, they were gorgeous women. They were young. They took their passports, and that's one thing. It's totally illegal. Take somebody's passport. They took their passports. So at that point, when they took their passport, they're taking some of their hourly wages. They're taking their monthly rent from them. They're locking them in their room at night. That is That is trafficking. That is human trafficking. Whether they do it for the money they work for, or they do it for prostitution. But anyway, the thing is, they were using these girls for prostitution. They were charging $1,000 an hour to be with one. So that's what I'm saying. There is happening, and this is there's been all kinds of stuff looked into this, but U.S. Customs does an outstanding job of working human trafficking. Okay, let me see what Katrina said here. Find it strange that the girls were sent away during lockdown to return on Mother's Day, and Barry Morphin happens to have to go to prepare for a job, and first he's saying that there was training into prior to. Yeah, I did. And we talked about that a few minutes ago. I personally don't think she was killed on Mother's Day. I don't. I think if she was killed, I don't think it was on Mother's Day. Whatever happened to her, I believe happened the night before Mother's Day. It's just, it's easy. I mean, you think about that. If nobody can tie it down to being absolutely riding the bike, I haven't seen that. If somebody can find some report or evidence, even opinions that it happened on Mother's Day, that she did in fact ride the bike, if there was video, if there was something like that to tell us that yes, she definitely rode the bike. Only thing we know, the neighbor came over and the bike was missing. I mean, that's all I see. I don't see that in truth and fact that she was actually riding the bike. But let's don't automatically assume that Barry did it. I don't have any evidence of that, and that's not what I'm saying at all. My opinion is that he's not doing his due diligence to find his wife. My opinion is he's not doing what I would do. He's not taking the extra effort to make sure everybody in this country knows about it and the world knows about it. He's not getting out there every single night on the news. He's not getting out there. I don't care if he just releases a statement every single night. I would at least do that. I would have something on the internet every night saying, look, help me find my wife. She's been gone 2 months. But instead he puts a 25-second statement up that he shakes his head no the whole time, which first time I saw that, I said, whoa, because I've seen the exact same thing in other statements. Somebody would be saying, and the minute they would just shake their hand. Yes, I want to find her. That type of thing. I think that little things might be doing it. How important is the institution for detective specialties in a case like this? Are you talking about intuition? I think the one thing is detectives have their own opinions of what happens, and somebody that they might want to look at suspiciously, but a good detective will learn his own instincts, but a good detective acts on evidence first. You've got to. You can't. If you don't, you'll get off on chasing a rabbit down this one trail and then find out it didn't go that way. You got to go with evidence number one, evidence first. And then you can look at circumstantial evidence next, direct evidence, and then circumstantial evidence next. And then after that, you can actually look at, of course, you're human. You're gonna go all the time and think to yourself, well, I believe this because just something's not right, and they could think like I do. Well, why isn't he going out there and doing this? Why isn't he making statements? Why did he go to Denver on Mother's Day? Why wasn't he home waiting on his girls to come home with her? I don't know. I would love to know what he talks about. I know one time he talks about a job with, I think, Tyson Draper, the internet guy, the YouTuber. He says, I had to go up and get things ready for the job. The guy was coming in the next morning. I would like to know where that job was, who the job was for, who the guy was, and if they maybe interviewed that. I'm sure the FBI and CBI has interviewed him. I'm sure they have looked that thing over to find out. And I understand that they pull the computer out of his truck, which would tell you where, especially if he had OnStar or anything like that, they would be able to tell you where the truck went, how long it sat idle, all that good stuff, and also where his phone went. Did his phone, they can trace it through towers and stuff like that. And I noticed there was a video of a helicopter flying over his house out there where it looked like he had two or three vehicles in the drive, which if he had an old truck, say he had like a 70s or 80s model truck, they don't have any of that electronic stuff in there, so somebody could have used that. One other thing too, there is some questions, is they had a huge some property in Indiana that they moved from Indiana to Colorado, and some people are saying that Suzanne didn't want to move, for one thing. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. They did. I think there's some misinformation about that. I don't even get into that, but he assumed guardianship very quickly over the property, and basically somebody has some more information out there today I read where possibly the property is sold in Indiana. Excuse me. I don't know that to be fact, and I don't want to make that statement that that's fact, but I could see him maybe assuming all this to kind of secure his finances, before they find out. But it just seems kind of early for all that to me. It just looks kind of early for some reason. There's a lot of things that make you want to sit back and say, why did that happen, or what did he do? But two, also, most of this is rumor and conjecture, and somebody said this and somebody said that, because the police are tight-lipped about it, and I don't blame them at all. I'd be exactly what they're doing. They want to keep everything close to the vest until it's time to charge, because when they do charge, and I believe they will charge someone, and I don't believe it's going to be a year later. I'm not saying I have any reason to believe this, but from just what I've read and how the case is being handled and who's involved in the case, I would look for something in the next 30 days. Now, I may be wrong. It might never happen. But the FBI, and like I said before, don't pay any attention about the news saying, oh, the FBI is this or that. Guys that work in the FBI in the field agents, they are top notch. They've got all kinds of stuff that is available to them. Forensics. They've got laboratory Quantico. They've got laboratory in the field. They've got unlimited, basically, manpower. And the Colorado Bureau of Investigation is top notch also. These are not Barney and Fife. They're not, and I'm not, the Sheriff's Department, I'm sure, is well and capable of doing their job, but those two, CBI and FBI, I would not put it past them if they don't have an arrest or some type of charge within the next 30 days. like I said, I don't have this, and it's not written in stone, and I'm not basing it on anything other than the fact that when you have the best people investigating things and the evidence is kind of looking like it's not a typical somebody drove my bike off the road and got hurt and stumbled up and fell in a creek, like I've heard that Barry even said out there, well, maybe she got disoriented, and so they're saying she might have fell in the creek. I looked at that creek from just the evidence that I've seen, and with all these creeks in Colorado with these rocks and stuff, I just don't see how anybody could fall in the creek and float down far enough where they couldn't find her. I mean, it looked like to me they'd be caught up in the rocks, and there's just not a lot of evidence to that. And plus, my thing was, every picture I saw taken with her, she had a helmet on. So if she was riding a bike, she probably had the helmet on. And if she had the helmet on, it'd be less likely a chance for her to get a head injury and get disoriented and something happened to her. So, excuse me, I think personally, based off just what I'm reading in the press, reading from notes and what the sheriff has said, and more so of what they've done, the investigation of the search, the investigation of the search of the house, getting a second search warrant, looking in the area that Barry did construction work, that tells me that they're not looking at a bike accident, that they're not looking at an animal attack. It tells me that they think there's foul play. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm totally wrong. I hope Barry's not involved. I hope that they find her alive. I hope they find her, period. Let's give this case some attention that it needs to happen. And I would really appreciate if you would subscribe, share the video, and come back and help me look at other cases of missing people. There's way too many people that mother and dads that and daughters and sons that have their, and husbands even, that have their wives missing, and there's not enough attention brought to that missing person. Now, I will say this again. I'm needing some moderators. I'm needing one or two moderators that will be here on every live stream and stand in the corner, say, and if you see somebody posting something that is illegal, immoral, or hate, then you would be able to take some action and kick them off the stream, or either delete their comments. And I'm not going to just take the first person that says, yeah, I want to be a moderator. We're going to have to discuss some ground rules, because I don't want I don't want people just looking at this channel and say, well, he's just blaming the husband. He's just blaming this, or he thinks because he's a former police officer, retired guy, he won't blame the police. That's not what it's about for me. I'm not making any money on this channel. I appreciate every one of you when you come out, and I will do my due diligence to help these people be found. Period. That's it. And I'm a retired cop, and I enjoy the work, and I miss the work. But when you've done it for so long, it was time to go. But I hope I can do a little bit to help people find their loved ones, and find Suzanne, and find the other cases that we will be looking in on. And what I ask you to do, if you know of a case that you'd like us to look into, that you leave me the name and the comments and what state they're in. Now, I can't guarantee that I will look at it, but in the future I am going to look at cases that's important to each one of y'all. There's two cases coming up. One is the one that me and Mac brought up, and I looked it up and I researched it, and I found it an incredibly interesting case, and I believe it's solvable. Even though it's like 13, 14 years old, that doesn't mean anything. I still believe that it is solvable, and deserves some attention. And another one that I'm going to do is on Tiffany McDaniels, she was one that I remember very well, that when it happened, I was working in a close by city near Pensacola, when it happened, and I remember it well. And that's one of them too that I planned on doing a long time ago. I actually almost did it number one, the first one we ever did, but I really had just watched some things happening out here out in Colorado, and really felt like that it needs some attention to the case. And I really believe, like I said, that it is a solvable case. And in my opinion, it will be solved. The Suzanne Morphew case will be solved, and I'll predict right now there will be a charge and arrest in it. Now, I'm not saying when, it's just, and I'm not basing that on any evidence that I have or secretly have, but what I've seen from the things that are happening and who's involved in it, it would surprise me if it's not sooner than later. Well, listen, I've rambled on here for over an hour, and I like to keep it a lot shorter than that. Um, I hope that I will see you in the future. From Scotland. Wow, Scotland. I would love to visit Scotland. I actually have a little bit of Scottish in my bloodline. They tell me my DNA does. Uh, we hope that we see in the future. I'm going to try to do my live streams at least on Monday, possibly Wednesday and Friday, maybe like 3 times a week, until at least we build up some following, mostly because of the more people that subscribe and the more people that come here every week, the better chance we are going to have that somebody knows something, tells something, says something, and we can pass it on to authorities and people can actually be found. And just because somebody's missing 10, 15, or 20 years doesn't mean they're not alive and they're out there and somebody's not looking for them. And if it was my child, I'd want all the attention that can be brought to bear. Do you think about this? You're home, you're sitting in front of the TV, and you've got a child that's missing. You don't know where they are, what they're up to, if they're alive or dead. You would want everybody to be shouting their names to the rooftop, or a wife, or a son, or a daughter, or a husband or wife. And that's the one big thing that in my last video that I was just so aggravated about Barry. And if you haven't seen it, go over and listen to a rant. It was a rant, but I think it needed to be said. I'm not sorry I put it out. Got a little hate from it. Some people didn't like the fact that I was said that he should remain silent. I don't believe that's the case. If I had somebody missing, I'd sure want everybody to know about it. Yeah, I would tell you this: if my dog was missing, I'd want everybody to know about it. I might not be on the news, but I'd have some posters up because I love my dogs. So anyway, thanks for dropping in. It's been over an hour tonight. I've enjoyed it, and hopefully something's going to break in this case, and it's going to break soon. I believe it will. I honestly believe it will. Unfortunately, I don't believe it's going to be a happy ending. I would love for it to be, but I don't think it's going to be a happy ending. And all I'm asking you to do a few things. Pray for that she is safe and she'll be coming home. Yeah, or if not, pray for the person that did whatever they did to her gets caught and they receive the just punishment they deserve. So appreciate you. Everybody stopping in. I appreciate everything that you said tonight. And all I ask is that you share this with your friends and you subscribe. And we are getting about 75% of all the people that watch the videos don't subscribe. That's just the way people are, and I'm not blaming them for that. They don't have to subscribe. It does help my channel. I'm not making any money from YouTube. Don't anticipate making any money from YouTube, and that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I care about people, and I hope you can really understand that, and I hope you believe it. But anyway, hope to see you next time online. I plan on doing one. This is Tuesday. I plan on doing one Friday if I don't do one before. If I just get something in my head I need to share, I'll share it. Unfortunately, that doesn't draw a crowd when that happens because I don't have anything ahead of time. excuse me, posted online. Hope you're staying safe from COVID. Pray they have a vaccine soon. But in the meantime, take care, God bless, and hope you come back. Good night.